Hello, buddy. Welcome back to Tin Man School Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm kicking off my new Shining Gold Tales marathon for you guys, and this was titled Three True Scary Stalker Horror Stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road to the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
This is a true story about an ex-friend of mine. I had tried to help him through a terrifying obsession he had with a girl. Unfortunately, to no avail. I've always been the type to observe everything from a safe distance. Seldom am I ever brought into drama, but people often come to me for advice. I've given the best and most sound counseling to friends, but this particular guy I knew was beyond any form of help.
All I gotta say is that if your friend was into some sort of girl and she ain't into him, then just let her go and find somebody else. That's all he had to do. I don't know what's going to happen here, so I'm going to just keep my mouth shut and listen through the whole story to get the facts.
The guy, we'll call him Andy, made no effort to cover up his psychotic behavior. From mumbling out loud to himself in public and being physically harmful, Andy was quite the basket case. He also had a twin brother who was quite the opposite. Friendly, charismatic, and very down-to-earth. I knew very little about him at first because I liked to keep to myself. We had gym class together, and when we would walk the track, I had my headphones on most of the time. When a girl began walking around the track with Andy and conversing with him, I instantly noticed because I overheard them talking about some heavy metal bands that I also enjoyed. I'm not really sure how I wound up becoming friends with them, but maybe one of them made a move to hang out with me. Our group consisted of Andy, the psycho, Krista, Mac, myself, and two other girls. We also had our subgroups. Krista and the other two girls were really into anime, while Mac and I would get into deep conversations about the mysteries of life.
To be honest with you, it sounds like a cool group to hang out with, but I'll be kind of scared to hang out with someone that's mentally insane, almost like a psychopath. I'll be scared if he'll turn on me and try to fight me or something. But I'm just glad that this guy was able to hang out with some friends and they're treating him nicely.
Andy, on the other hand, mostly sat and listened to Krista. He had an obvious crush on her, and by the middle of the school year, everyone, including Krista, knew how desperate he was for her. Krista stated that she didn't date because her father was very protective. Despite her efforts to pull away from him, Andy was practically on top of her, forcing hugs she awkwardly yanked away from, and making it known that he wanted her. On one occasion, she'd blocked his number, realizing that it was a mistake to give it to him in the first place. He managed to steal her phone and unblock his number. After we confronted him about it, he admitted to blocking his twin brother's number in her phone as well. Andy absolutely hated his twin, and never wanted to be compared to him, which is understandable because his brother was the charismatic one with lots of friends. Andy said on multiple occasions that he wished his brother was dead.
Okay, that's a little bit of sign of concern right there. Someone hates their twin brother and wishes that they're not alive anymore, then you might want to talk to his parents about this and see if they could get him better mental health or something. Like, I don't know what's going on in this guy's life, but he don't need to be so dark. He should learn how to treat people with respect and dignity like his brother's doing. But man, blocking your own brother on your phone as well as one of the girls' numbers is really messed up. This is already getting creepy.
And joked about the joyful thought of killing him. I didn't judge harshly at first, but my friend Mac did. He would let Andy know what a creep he was. One time, Krista and Andy were talking, and he'd taken a seat right beside her. He was telling her not to talk to his brother. Somewhere in the conversation, right in the school library, he slapped her for not listening. I'll never forget the fear and anger on her face, and from then on, even after his awkward apology, Krista let him know he should stay away from her. Unfortunately, he started talking to me more often. Every day on the bus, he talked about Krista. Some days he'd even chant her name and get lost in his own thoughts of her. I would try to drop subtle hints that she's not interested, or at the very least, to treat her normal and give her space. Apart from his desire for Krista, he was also the most desperate guy I'd ever met. He would ask out every girl he came into contact with. Andy would frequently message me on Facebook, telling me that he needed a girlfriend. It's fair to say that he had a knack for making people feel uncomfortable, and some days I couldn't help but ignore him. Krista evaded him until high school graduation, but Andy's obsession only seemed to intensify. I genuinely thought he could be helped, and I could get through to him whilst keeping my own distance, but he set off too many alarms. Firstly, he was training for entry into a military boot camp and was discharged for reasons in relation to his mental state. Secondly, every day he would write to me at weird times early in the morning and tell me, "Help, I can't stop thinking of her. I'm in love with her." This was clearly not true, because he'd made moves on other girls in the time he'd known her. He had implied that he would self-harm to get her off his mind, but nothing worked. He'd also somehow convinced himself that she wanted him as well, and would frequent the grocery store that she went to just to say hi, though she kept her head down and ignored him. One morning, as I was browsing social media, he messaged me the usual, "I need her, I love her, help me, I'm going crazy." I tried to help him analyze his feelings and come to his senses, that he was fine and to let her be. Hoping to help him put things in perspective, I typed out, "Tell me what you truly love about her." I can't believe what he sent me next. It was the most ridiculous and degrading message I'd ever read about someone. I won't repeat it verbatim, but it was incredibly graphic and sexual. I felt like I'd read some psycho's personal diary. Truthfully, this girl was tiny, 18 years old and not even 100 pounds, which made me fear he'd prey on her. He was very short, but she appeared vulnerable and smaller than him. I was getting tired of playing therapist for this guy, who clearly had no idea he was scaring this girl. Up to the last time we spoke, the worst thing he'd requested of me was to get a hold of Krista's new number. I figured he was going to try to convince her to see him again. He grew frustrated with my decline and pleaded with me to help me obtain her address. Needless to say, the last night we spoke, I wished him well and told him I would not assist him in terrorizing Krista. Then I blocked him. It's been around a year since then. I just hope he got the help he needed, and I hope for her sake that he never found out where she lives.
Oh God, I hope not either. Because then he'll be bugging the crap out of her and she keep on saying no, and he's going to keep coming back. But for him to say that he only liked her for sexual needs is really disgusting. I'm surprised that the military boot camp kicked him out, because if he don't take discipline very well because of his mental state, he don't need to be there at all, because he might snap and attack one of the other trainees or even one of the drill sergeants. But that tells you right there, that person is really one messed up human being. I'm sorry, but if you hit a woman by slapping her in the face and she don't take your apology, then she don't want to be around you, dude. Because if a man puts his hands on a woman, then he ain't a man at all. I can't believe there's people like that in this world that, think they're above everybody, and then they threaten the person that they like because they're talking to somebody else that he didn't want you to talk to. I mean, come on, it won't no harm of her talking to your brother. I mean, good lordy. And if he says that he was hitting on other girls, then it seems like he probably do the same thing to them too. Just make love with them and then leave, probably. But hopefully, like I said, he got the help he needed and helped clear his mind and find somebody that would truly appreciate him. I'm just sorry that that girl and this guy went through that. But I mean, if his parents heard that he was doing that, they would have been ashamed of him and probably kicked him out. But anyway, let's get to story number 2, shall we?
This happened to me 2 or 3 years ago. I was around 23 at the time.
Okay.
I'm a female, and I live in Romania. One night, I was coming home from class. My classes start at 6 p.m. and end at around 10 p.m. At 11, I had to take the subway for about 12 stops. The destination where I had to get off was at the end of the line for the subway. At that time, there wouldn't be many people riding the train. I'm a pretty solitary person. All I need is my headphones and music, and I'm good to go. I plugged in my music and picked the furthest chair on the subway, far from the only two people that were taking it with me. So far, so good, until I saw, out of the corner of my eye, a silhouette approached me and sat right next to me. It was a man, fairly built, dark hair, wearing glasses, and a black shirt with a black hoodie and a sickening smile.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but that won't fly with me. I'll be kind of creeped out and be like, "Can I help you, sir?" Without trying to be rude, of course. And if I move seats, I bet you that person will probably follow.
He didn't engage with me, but just stared at my phone as I was browsing through my music. I could hear him breathe heavily, not painfully, but still like he was feeling something very strongly. I felt uneasy, so I decided to change seats and go even further back in order to avoid him without looking like a freak myself. I picked a new chair, sat down, plugged in my headset, and proceeded with the remaining 6 stops on my way home. I saw the silhouette growing larger and larger, and I felt a breeze on my skin. I realized it was the guy sitting next to me again. He glanced my way with dead eyes, a big smile, staring right at my phone. I panicked. There were still 4 stops to go. I had nowhere to hide. I looked over at the other person in the subway and tried to sit next to her, thinking that strength comes in numbers. She was no longer there. I started shaking a bit, but not allowing the creeper to notice my vulnerability. I stood up, went to the door, and just decided to stand there until my stop came. That way, he wouldn't be able to sit next to me. Unfortunately, he came right after me and sat on the chair right near the door, and because he couldn't see my phone from that angle, he fixated on me instead and said, "Hi, gorgeous. Why are you avoiding me?" I freaked out as I looked at my phone, trying to call someone for help. The man stopped me by saying, "I know no one will help you. You would have sent an SOS message by now. I know you didn't." That moment, I realized I was cornered. He had been focusing on my phone to see who I was talking to, trying to figure out if I would panic. He wanted to see if I would ask someone for help. He cornered me.
Oh, heck no. If somebody was staring at my phone, I'd be like, "Excuse me, sir. I don't like nobody looking at my phone when I'm texting somebody. Or I don't want you to know what I'm looking up." But also say that if you don't sit down, I'm going to go to the person running the train and tell them what you're doing. Man, that's creepy that he knows that she did not send an SOS. She's vulnerable. Because if it was me, I'd be like, "Dude, she don't want nothing to do with you. Leave her alone and back away from her."
I finally reached my stop and got off the subway, not looking back as I ran for the exit. I got out at the surface and didn't see him anymore. At that moment, I put my phone into my purse and realized I had pepper spray with me all along. My heartbeat came back to normal, as I knew that I at least had some way to defend myself, but I was still a long way from home, and who knows if he was alone. I walked rather fast for 5 minutes from the metro station. Just then, I felt a hand grab my wrist and pulled me back. Another hand covered my mouth so I couldn't scream. It was him, the same man with the black hoodie, dark hair, and dead eyes. He was furious and said, "You running from me? How dare you run away from me? You should be honored that I give you attention." I'm a larger woman, 80 kilograms, 175 centimeters tall, so I guess he thought men wouldn't find me attractive or something, and that I should feel lucky that he's even interested. My phone was in my bag, so I couldn't call the police, and I couldn't reach my pepper spray. Not knowing what else to do, I did the most desperate and disgusting thing I could think of. I played along. I hung my head and mumbled, "I'm sorry," while his hand was on my mouth. He took his hand off, and I repeated that I'm sorry. He let his guard down and took his hand off my wrist. He asked me for my phone number and address, but I refused, saying that I'd rather add him on Facebook, to which he agreed. I told him I'd reach for my phone, but instead I picked the pepper spray and sprayed it all over his face. I made sure to cover both eyes, nose, mouth, even his ears and hands. He instantly turned red, suffocating from the pepper spray. I called the police and told them what happened and what I did. They asked me if he was immobilized, to which I said yes, because the effects of the pepper spray last for 45 minutes. The police arrived 5 minutes later to see me shaking, and the man was on the ground, swollen like a pumpkin, throwing up and swearing between gasps of breath. He was arrested, and the police told me that they had been looking for him for this past week because they discovered a body of a 24-year-old woman in his apartment. A larger lady, 177 centimeters tall and 75 kilograms. Red hair, like mine. I don't know for sure what he wanted with me. I figure he targeted me because of my physical appearance, since it's similar to the other victim. Although I got away that day, I will never feel comfortable in the subway alone. This man is going to jail for a long time, but if he gets out, I hope we never meet again.
Oh God, I hope he don't get out of jail. But that was a good call on her part to say that she was sorry and she'll give him her Facebook just so they could chit chat. I said that was a perfect call because then he'll lose his bearings on the whole situation and then give in. And then when she acts like she's going to pull the phone out, pull the pepper spray, got him. Thank God she had that on her, because if she didn't, she would have been in the mercy of him and probably got killed. Golly, that's just disturbing. I'm just glad the police showed up before the pepper spray effects wore off. But I'm with her. I don't know if I would trust riding the subway if someone like that would be around.
This took place during my sophomore year of high school. I was a 15-year-old girl, young for my grade. It was a Wednesday in the winter. I joined the honor society at my school. We had to meet at 7:20 a.m., which was 25 minutes before school started. Since I wasn't a morning person, getting up early was always frustrating for me. That's why I was often late. This day was no exception. Since I was only 15, I couldn't drive to school myself, so I had my grandmother take me. She lived with my mother and she was always happy to help. My mother worked a lot, so Grandma was a real lifesaver. She opened the garage door by pressing a button on the wall. Both my grandma and I got into her car, which was parked in the garage. After we closed the car doors, she pulled out into the driveway. As she backed the car onto the street, I screamed stop, and she quickly slammed onto the brakes. There was a man, about 6 feet tall, dirty blonde-looking hair, wearing all black. He was illuminated by the headlights, since it was winter, and in the mornings, it was pitch dark. I noticed something in his hand. Being the observant person that I was, I thought I saw a black handle. The man didn't look at us. He didn't explain himself, or wave a hand to say sorry. He just stopped in front of our lights for about 3 seconds before continuing to walk through our yard towards our neighbor's house. We watched him disappear into the darkness. Our neighborhood was very friendly. We all owned about an acre of land, and at the time, my neighbors were having work done around their houses, taking down some trees and some other landscaping work. My grandmother, with her heart of gold, continued driving as we discussed what just happened. She assumed the man was just a worker.
You know, I was just thinking that might be a good possibility, Justin, because they mentioned that their neighbor was getting work done. on their house. But if he's got a black handled object in his hand and he took a long time to walk away from your guys' headlights, he's probably not out there to work on the house. He's probably there to probably steal some stuff. And that black handled object is probably a gun. I would have been calling the police ASAP.
I didn't think so. I told her I thought he had a knife in his hand, but she brushed it off, saying maybe it was a worker, holding a dustpan or a shovel. He could have just been using our yard as a shortcut. However, something told me I had to warn my mother, so I began trying to text her, but the texts weren't sending. Nothing was going through. Eventually, I was able to get a text. Lock the door, I told her. But when she replied, she didn't understand. She questioned me by saying, "What? Why?" At that point, I called her, quickly explaining the situation and yelling at her to bolt the door. She did, and not a second later, a man opened our screen door and tried to open the main door as well. When he realized that it was locked, he tried to kick it down. My mother then called the police. I don't know how quickly they arrived, but we lived in a small town, so I assumed the response time was quick. When the police arrived, she told them what had happened, and they wrote up a report. Later that morning, the man was found a couple blocks down. He tried to break into some of the other houses. Eventually, he broke into the wrong house and was chased off by one of my neighbors who had a shotgun. The man was caught and arrested shortly after, and he had a large butcher's knife. This story could have ended much worse, but it holds a lot of what ifs. What if I hadn't been late? What if I hadn't gotten a hold of my mom? And the biggest one of all, what if I wasn't with my grandmother and she tried to talk to him? I'm now a junior in high school, and it's been about a year, but the effects of this encounter are still haunting me. I'm afraid to be alone. I will double and even triple check locks and listen intently to the sounds of my house when I'm trying to sleep. If I hear something, I'll try to check it out. He's made me paranoid, but I guess my fears are rational. Who expects their own home to be the site of a creep encounter?
If you weren't there with your grandma, she probably would have ended up talking to that guy, but then that guy probably would have turned around with that knife and stabbed her and steal her belongings. But I'm surprised her mother was not taking it so seriously when the daughter messaged her saying, "Lock the door." I mean, no questions asked, just go and lock it. And I'm glad she did, because if she didn't, that guy would have just opened up the door when he opened up the screen door and got in the house. But I'm glad he's caught. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Shiny Gold Tales reactions like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and that's Dale.